Greetings, my friends. I want to thank you all for subscribing. I want to thank all of my channel members for supporting me in this endeavor to save pop culture. And if you are not subscribed, please consider supporting this channel. We need you. Thank you. And so at last, my friends, here is my review of the first 3 episodes of Star Wars Skeleton Crew. In a way, I'm glad it took me a while to get to these reviews because a major shift happens in the 3rd episode, and that shift is Jude Law. Here is my evaluation of the good, the bad, and the ugly of the first 3 episodes of this series. The first episode signals that Skeleton Crew is going to attempt to recapture the magic of the original Star Wars Episode 4 by doing a ton of callbacks, both literal and stylistic. The opening shot is a callback to the opening shot of A New Hope when the camera tilts down past a moon towards the action as a large ship enters the frame. And even though it is not literally the same shot, it was engineered to feel the same. A ship on the run enters the frame, and it's evocative of an early version of the Rebel blockade runner that was transporting Princess Leia in the original. The ship is pursued by a much larger pirate ship that aggressively boards and raids it. As we hear clanking on the outside of the ship, an armed crewman aiming his gun, getting ready to repel the pirates, looks around at the clanking sound, exactly like they looked around in the original Star Wars, waiting to be boarded. Then we see the werewolf guy from the Mos Eisley Cantina, who fires off a few shots, and then guess what? A masked villain strides onto the ship, just like Darth Vader did. And then he interrogates a prisoner, holding him by the neck, in a very similar dialogue to Vader's when he asks, "Where are those transmissions you intercepted? What have you done with those plans?" Only in this case, this pirate is asking about the vault, and the guy protests, "We're protected by the New Republic. We have no credit shipments. This is a bulk freighter." Just like the strangled guy in New Hope says, "We intercepted no transmissions. This is a consular ship. We're on a diplomatic mission." Beat by beat, the opening scene of Skeleton Crew reveals that this show is going to do its damnedest to harken back to the original Star Wars beats and try to recapture the magic, which is a tacit admission that Disney realizes that they've lost the magic, and that in and of itself is a step forward, my friends. After all, the first step to recovery is admitting you have a problem. The key question for this series, at least for me, is this show any fun? Because Star Wars has suffered from a deficit of fun ever since Disney bought it. In this review, that's what I'm going to try to analyze. That is going to be my focus. So anyway, they open the vault, it's empty, and the masked captain is in trouble with his crew. Cut to a kid playing with Star Wars action figures, or, more properly, Jedi and Sith action figures. This is basically trying to be very meta and project modern kids watching Star Wars into being kids living inside Star Wars. Or at least the adults who remember Star Wars, projecting their childhood selves into this series. Because of course, modern kids don't play with toys like we did, and mostly don't watch Star Wars anymore. And even so, it's an interesting approach, trying to basically make a Spielberg 70s movie version of Star Wars meets the Goonies by way of E.T. and Close Encounters. This kid's name is Wim, and he lives in Steven Spielberg's neighborhood with a hammerhead neighbor walking its pet. The nostalgia is strong with this one. The main problem stylistically is Spielberg's childhood movies were colorful and bright, but all the scenes here are dark or washed out. Why the hell does every modern TV show look like shit? It's a weird modern look that just does not work for me. I'm so tired of it. Color was invented back in the 30s. Use it, for God's sake. Anyway, Wim meets the elephant boy, his classmate. They have a mock lightsaber duel just like we used to have, and then things start to go wrong. While he and his friends are riding the school bus, a much cooler girl named Fern zips by on a speeder bike of some sort, with what I think is another girl in a sidecar, wearing Geordie LaForge's visor and Andy Warhol's haircut. And so yeah, once again, yawn, this is going to be a show where the girls are cooler and smarter than the boys. This is Disney's obsession for some reason. God forbid we should have boys that are smart and cool too. A female government official, undersecretary something or other, who also happens to be Fern's mom, comes to class and tells the kids about their upcoming career day assessment, where basically you take a test and get locked into this career path for the rest of your life based on the results. So, girl bosses, check. Totalitarian underpinnings on your seemingly Spielbergian planet, check. Is this shit Star Wars? Not really. Maybe the colors are muted because there's an underlying coldness here, a sterility that justifies the harsher lighting. So far, I'm not hating it overall, although I am hating the girl boss bullshit. But, all that said, I'm not having a lot of fun either, and fun is the thing that Star Wars needs. In short, Wim, who hasn't studied for the assessment test, stays up late, oversleeps for the test, misses the bus, and tries to ride a speeder bike of his own on a shortcut, but since he's not as cool as Fern, he screws it up, gets thrown off the bike, tumbles into a little valley and finds a buried spaceship. He mentions it to his dad, who is called into school because Wim missed the exam. Fern overhears Wim talking about this find, and then she goes and finds the ship herself with Warhol LaForge, aka Katie, and starts digging it up. 'Cause she's faster and smarter than Wim, of course, and she claims the find for her own. Fern outsmarts the boys over and over again, pranks them, then cons them into doing all the digging grunt work, and this might have been charming, the clever girl getting the better of bungling boys, if girls being better than boys hadn't been the dominant theme of the past 10 years at least, and as it is, I am not tickled by it. I'm pissed off by it. A lot pissed off. At this point, although the external trappings of fun are there, at least potentially, I'm not really having much fun with this episode. It seems more good-natured than the vast majority of Disney Star Wars, excluding The Mandalorian, which is superior to this. But is it a rollicking fun adventure? So far, not really. There's an attempt at fun, but that attempt is hampered by poor visuals, dull colors, and Fern being a bit bestisty MRE at the explicit expense of the boys, which is seriously annoying at this point. I'm so sick of this bullshit girl power trope. Whenever I see it now, it's a deal breaker for me. Anyway, true to the girl power thing, while the boys tag along, Katie finds a way into the ship, because she's so smart, bangs on something to get it to activate, and it takes off while Wim's dad is searching in the dark forest for him, and they're off on their adventure. So far it's slow, doesn't feel like Star Wars, looks like crap, got the same boring girl power bullshit that every other Star Wars thing has under Disney, but at least it has a plot that more or less makes sense, which puts it way above Obi-Wan, Acolyte, and Book of Boba Fett. On to episode 2. We open with a Goonies moment as the kids are screaming as they hurtle through the cosmos, kind of like Ren and Stimpy in Space Madness. This is an amusing moment, good-natured, fun. Then the ship's droid shows up, asking where's the captain in a kind of piratey accent, and of course Little Miss Fern declares herself immediately to be captain, claiming she killed the other captain, so once again, the same old Slay Queen bullshit, even with kids. This is Disney's default go-to every single time, and all the tread is worn off that damn tire. Enough with this crap, Disney. It's so obvious you're just embarrassing yourself now. So Captain Mary Sue asks the droid to fly them back home to Aten, their home. But the droid doesn't know where that is. In fact, no one throughout the show knows where it is. Everyone throughout the show seems to think it's mythical. So there's a mystery here, I suppose. Hey, listen, it may not be blowing air up the old proverbial Marilyn Monroe skirt, but at least it has a plot and actors that can act a lot more authentically than most of the adult actors in Disney Star Wars. The kids, thankfully, seem like kids, and their performances are not a problem. Nor is the script, really, except for the cliched, outdated, and at this point pathetic girl boss stuff. Meanwhile, back on Aten, droids are searching for the source of a big seismic disturbance, which was the ship taking off, which Wim's dad saw, and he promptly reports to the searching droids. They inform him no ships are allowed to enter or leave, that breaching the barrier is a serious but they get interrupted whenever they're about to give away too much of the mystery of why no one knows about the planet. So, yeah. Anyway, back on the ship, we get another Spielbergian moment ripped right out of Raiders of the Lost Ark, when Marion was stumbling from dead body to dead body in the Well of Souls till Indy grabs her, only in this case Marion is the elephant boy. Dig? Holy crap, these guys are really tugging on the nostalgia strings here, hard. It's kind of annoying, but again, also an admission that the past of Lucasfilm is far superior to current Lucasfilm, since if they're recreating moments from old movies, well, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, right? They head to a base for repairs, where you'll rest well in a soft bed or a shallow grave, according to the droid. Very nice line. And again, wow, glimmers of fun are bursting out here and there. A major step forward for the damaged Star Wars franchise, even though once again, this seems more like a random kid's adventure than Star Wars, despite the member berries. At one point, Katie, or as I call her, Warhol LaForge, looks around the station and says, "Look, aliens!" Which is, wow. That's a pretty dumb line. I mean, aliens, really? What the hell is Hammerhead and Elephant Boy and a number of other strange critters in her school? Maybe she should have said new aliens or undiscovered aliens or something. But I digress. It's jarring, I'll just leave it at that. But notice how every scene is dark and everybody in it, except our kid characters, is dressed in black and brown and dark colors. See, this visually is what we call not fun. This visually is boring, drab, and suck. I swear the fun in this show is getting buried beneath all the dismal art direction, set design, and lighting or lack thereof. Anyway, the kids start getting in trouble. A weird spiky girl asks them where they're from. When they say "At Atten," the woman replies incredulously, "The lost planet of eternal treasure?" So some action breaks out. Women and Elephant Boy are running away. Fern steps in to save them but loses her gun. Their pirate droid shows up, says, "Do not touch my captain," kicks some ass before getting blasted from behind, and bada bing, bada boom, they all wind up in a vast dark cell, aside from the droid who's in a lab. But in the back of their cell is a mysterious Force user who uses the Force to grab the cell key from its hook outside the bars. Wim says, "Are you a Jedi?" And he says, "Shh, can you keep a secret?" Which leads us to episode 3, when everything changes. In episode 3, thanks largely to Jude Law's character Jod, Skeleton Crew finally clicks into gear and actually becomes entertaining. The plot moves along briskly, and what do you know? The interactions between Jod and the kids becomes genuinely fun. The plot is very simple. Using what appears to be the Force, Jod and the kids escape the base, get on their ship, and despite some trouble with a particularly strong fuel tether, they manage to jump to hyperspace, causing a lot of damage to the station behind them. The pirates, Jod's old crew as it turns out, for he was the masked pirate from the opening, surprise, surprise, not. Those pirates vow revenge. The kids want to go back home to At Atten. Jod, like everyone, is intrigued by this mystery planet, which is rumored to have riches. He visits an old frenemy who looks like a space owl of some kind. They use her charts and computers to analyze some potential locations, but when Jod realizes the owl has tipped off the New Republic that he's there, he steals a potential lead to the location from her and runs back to the ship with the kids in tow. They shoot their way out off of this moon, pursued by X-Wings in a pretty good action sequence, and they manage to escape. But the real story here is how much Jude Law brings to the table in this episode. The first Star Wars episode in a very long time when I've had anything resembling fun. Jod's interactions with the kids are amusing and even a bit endearing. Jod is a con man and a scoundrel. He has powers, but what is the source of those powers? We don't know. He's a very amusing character, a charming rogue in the classic tradition. I really like the owl character as well. I thought the action set pieces were clever and engaging. Folks, episode 3 was a lot of fun for me, and no one was more surprised than I that this was the case. But I want to make one thing clear right here and right now. The only reason that it was fun was because I was able to stop thinking about this in terms of it being Star Wars. That is almost certainly why I was able to enjoy Episode 3. This is, in my mind, a children's fantasy adventure like Treasure Island in space. Almost like a made-up story where kids are kind of incorporating a few Star Wars elements into it, but it's really not Star Wars at all. There are Star Wars elements in the background, but it just does not feel like Star Wars. At least the first 2 episodes didn't. The third one at least had that sense of fun that Star Wars used to have. Not as much, but still. This is the first glimmer of fun I've seen in Star Wars in ages. While I really didn't enjoy Episodes 1 and 2 much for the reasons I listed, Episode 3 is a whole different beast thanks to Jude Law's star power and ability to elevate the proceedings, and all in all, miracle of miracles, I'm actually looking forward to Episode 4. It's not Star Wars really, and the show is not saving Star Wars, not after all the damage that's been done, but Skeleton Crew is both a step in the right direction and a sidestep, avoiding the problems with Star Wars by not really trying to be Star Wars at all. And ironically, that may be the best Star Wars can be right now. From the center of the earth, this is Dictor Van Doomcock bidding you all, my friends, stay angry.
Ha 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 ha.